what people think, doctors especially, or people in general, think is leading causes of erectile dysfunction aren't. If you told women today, no more vibrators, I really don't want you using a vibrator, they would think, what the are you crazy? I'm a firm believer that an orgasm a day keeps the doctor away. Men who are watching pornography and masturbating become dependent upon their own hand.
Hello, and welcome to Awake at the Wheel. So Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and in working with my clients, this often means clients coming in and talking about the anticipation of the day, but usually not terribly positively. So wives often talk about the anticipation of the disappointment of their husbands not fulfilling the perfect day for them. Husbands will also often talk about the expectations that seem insurmountable and unattainable. So with this comes a great deal of unrealistic pressure and disappointment. So there we go, talking about a really happy holiday just to start out here. So oftentimes in our work with clients, the impact of psychological disorders has a great impact not only on their emotional intimacy, but also on their physical intimacy by way of things like desire, libido, and in some cases, as a result of different disorders and even medications that they take to treat these, they can often be dealing with things such as erectile dysfunction and other sexual dysfunction. So on this podcast, we often talk about men's mental health and the various factors that can impact this. But in my experience working with men, I do often find that one of the most difficult things to navigate is the psychological and emotional impact that can come with difficulties in sexual performance as a result of their mental health conditions. So today, we're joined by Dr. Elliot Justin, and he is the CEO and founder of FirmTech. This is the first sex tech company that is dedicated to the improvement of men's erectile fitness. So Dr. Elliot, he has a background in emergency medicine, and he is a healthcare technology consultant as well as a serial healthcare entrepreneur. Dr. Justin studied Slavic studies at Harvard as well as medicine at Boston University. And he has been married for 35 years, is the father of 3, and lives in Montana along with his family, as well as his chickens and his mares. So welcome, Dr. Elliot.
Good. It's great to be here. And by the way, our mission is not just for men, it's for women too. We are developing the world's first monitor of clitoral health. We presented a research paper about this a year ago at the National Society for Sexual Medicine, and we hope to have prototypes available for testing by Q4 this year, because it's really kind of shocking that for probably 2 organs that are most vital to people after their brain, the penis and the clitoris, we don't have any way right now of objectively monitoring their health.
So with that said, why don't you first tell us about how you came into this endeavor here? So working in emergency medicine, was there a connection with that work, with what you're doing now, or tell us how you got to where you are?
Not directly, although I can tell you that as an emergency medicine doctor, although you probably already know this as a therapist, there are few emergencies short of a heart attack or a stroke that concern a man as much as a limp dick. So, men were only good as our last 2 erections mentally. So, it's a big. I don't. I was not compared to heart attack, but it's sexual health is critical to our health and our happiness. But I got into it because years ago I founded a company called SwiftMD. That was the second oldest telehealth company in the United States after Teladoc, and that got me interested in remote patient management. But really, remote patient management with what could people do to take care of themselves at home if they had technology that wasn't motivated by secondary gain. And one of the unfortunate things about our healthcare system, yours too, is that it's protocolized, and which means that we're not taking care of the individual anymore. We plug people into a protocol pathway, so it's not individualized, and you get the care that can be billed for, not necessarily the care that you need. So about a little over 3 years ago, a professor of urology at the University of Utah contacted me about how to count the number of nocturnal erections that men have because of leading indicator cardiovascular health. He came to me because I was actually working on a very sophisticated catheter to regulate blood pressure after stroke the doctor I was working with heard that I had once worked on something that I call Project O. O for obvious reasons. So Project O was an attempt to neuromodulate human sexuality. If you open up textbooks, you'll see that the arousal erections and orgasms in men and women are due to the cavernous nerve and the pudendal nerve. And my thought, well, if that's true, why can't we pace them just the way we can pace the heart? And I experimented on 2 rams, male sheep, and we got erection and ejaculation, but we also got defecation and urination. So it wasn't very exactly bedroom friendly, unless you're really kinky. So the usual course of action would have been, well, let's go down, let's raise $20 million, go down to Brazil or the Congo and try this on 25 men. Instead, I approached a friend of mine who's a urology surgeon at University of California, San Francisco, and I said, let's plant the electrode in me. And we did, and I felt nothing. That's really interesting because I don't think we know how erections and arousal are produced in men and women. I think it's much more complicated than we imagine. My wife is more spiritual than I am, like to think it's Aphrodite. I'll say I'm agnostic about that point. But this urology professor heard about this experiment, said he wanted to count the number of nocturnal erections, and I said, "What the fuck for?" If you know part of my language, I grew up in New York City.
It's all good.
Why do we care about nocturnal erections? We all know about morning wood, and we laugh about morning wood. And he said, no, a healthy man should have 3 to 5 nocturnal erections per night. And if that number goes down, that man goes down drastically from 4 to 2 or 2 to 0. That man has a 50% chance of having a heart attack in the next 2 years. Well, that took me aback because one, I'm a doctor, never heard about this, and most doctors still don't know about this. And then so I went online and saw some papers, and indeed, there's significant research indicating that nocturnal erections are indicator of cardiovascular health. The leading indicator in medicine is really powerful because in medicine we treat associations. Oh, high blood pressure associated with heart attack or stroke. But I really don't give a hoot whether if either one of you, Oren or Malini, were my patients, and your systolic blood pressure went from 120 to 140, I don't really care. I want to know what's going on in the coronary arteries. And that's what you really want to know about as well, too. I don't want to chase numbers. I want to try to look at the end organ. So this doctor, like most straight doctors, is what I call a cock ring virgin, meaning he's never tried a cock ring in his life. As a matter of fact, he's got that typical male reaction of, I don't need that. Well, it's not about need, it's about want. And I'll get into that more later on. So my thought was to embed sensors into a cock ring, but advanced, sophisticated form of cock ring, one that was comfortable, one that could be worn for hours, one that would also promote sustained erections, as well as give men not just the data of their overnight erections, because what do guys really care about? Hey, honey, how was I in bed last night when I was sleeping? Or what's really happening when I'm having sex? So that's the backstory of the tech ring.
Okay.
We want to deliver data to people as well as performance.
So you said that you were the guinea pig for this?
Everything.
For everything. So yes. How did you make that decision? Was it you can kind of talk the talk and walk the walk type of deal?
Exactly. Well, I'm fortunate to be married to a woman who's into sex toys. And by the way, that if I was to give young people one piece of marital advice, male or female, marry someone that's interested in sex toys. That should be on your checklist. Might not be on your checklist, but probably should be on your checklist. What we're doing right now it's not invasive. Yeah, I mean, you can see it online at myfirmtech.com, and it. Have you seen this before? So it's
online yet.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
So there's a pressure sensor here, and inside the hook there's a strain gauge. It goes on differently than other cock rings. The balls drop in, and it wraps around and closes with a hook. And that is the tech ring, the world's first objective monitor of sexual health. So as the penis expands in girth, it pushes on the pressure sensor, pulls on the hook, and then the computer interprets those pressures, if you will, into 1 to 10 hardness score. So we've documented 56,000, maybe closing on 57,000 erections. We have the largest database, we call it, in the world. And we're just starting to mine that database for research purposes. And we're discovering that, given your intro to the show, what people think, doctors especially, or people in general, think is leading causes of erectile dysfunction aren't. A little more story. So most cock rings are O-rings. They're pinched. They're uncomfortable, made out of hard silicone. They slide down the penis. They're hard to get off. They're hard to get on. I'm 71 years old. I can look down and see my penis. Well, excuse me, I'm dressed right now, but I can look down and I can see my body. I'm not gonna stand up. I'll stand up for proof. See, I'm dressed. Most men my age or Oren's age, they look down, they see belly. So just using a ring could be a challenge for them. And so several things happened. I was scratching my wife's back after she took off her bra. And I was thinking about this problem, obviously probably some subconscious part of my brain. And on my wife's desk, so it's not this desk, she had a stress ball. And I thought, oh, stress ball, elastomer. Why are we making cock rings out of hard silicone? Because silicone is an uncomfortable material. Let's make a cock ring out of elastomer, because elastomers adapt to us. Silicone makes us adapt to them. And then my thought was, if we make it out of elastomer, we'll come up with a cock ring where guys don't have to be fully hard for it to work, like a noose on his penis. It'll let the arterial blood flow in and just constrain the venous return. It's going to be worn for a longer period of time. And then came the other insight. Malini, this one's over to you. Do you recognize the origin of this? I gave you a hint just a moment ago.
The clitoris.
No, good guess. I like that. I like the way your mind works. No, it's the bra hook. So I scratch them out. I would say jokingly that probably half the heterosexual sex in committed relationships is when a guy's scratching his wife's back on a hot night when she takes off a bra, because the silicone is irritating to the back. And I saw a bra on the ground, and I thought, a bra is a ring that opens and closes with a hook. Why don't we make a cock ring that opens and closes with a hook? That way, it'd be easy on, easy off, safe, no problems getting it on, no problems getting it off. Guys who have belly would be able to just wrap around their balls, as I showed you before. So that's the backstory for the material and for the form of the ring. So
what's the most difficult, stigma for men to overcome, do you find, to kind of buy into this? Because it sounds like the technology is sound and it's, going to help a lot of people. But I also imagine that there's many who don't want to give into, quote unquote, give into using that.
Yeah, well, it kind of reminds me. Well, one thing, we have 7 papers either published or accepted publication. There are another 15 studies underway where doctors are using our technology to look at every area of intervention, from PD5 medications, Viagra, Cialis, testosterone replacement therapy, shock therapy, Botox, PRP injections, pelvic floor exercises. So eventually, this research will penetrate people's minds. But you just mentioned a really important point. So I would draw an analogy to vibrators. So I'm a lot older than you guys. My mother's vibrator in the late 50s, early 60s was stashed away in the bottom dresser drawer of a supply dresser in our garage. God knows what a sex life like with my father. I don't know how, back in the late 70s, early 80s, when vibrators started to become popularized, there was a certain stigma, shame, embarrassment to women. You need to come without a vibrator. You're going to get vibrator dependent. I don't know how many vibrators my wife owns, and she seems to pick up a new one every two or three. I about to say 2 or 3 weeks. She would probably say 2 or 3 months. It's more like 2 or 3 weeks. But she will want to vibrate at different stages of what position she's making love in, or what her mood is, or whatever. And our daughter, who's 30, takes them on dates. So there are communities where vibrators still have a certain embarrassment associated with them. But in our presenting to conferences all around, the sexology conference all around the world, even in India and in the the Arab Gulf, Persian Gulf, vibrators are a common place for for women, not cock rings. So one of the things that has to change is cock rings have to be mainstreamed. And I alluded to this doctor being a cock ring virgin. He's still our chief medical officer, but it's hard to overcome the notion that cock rings are for gay guys or for guys into fetish sex, and then there's a sort of male embarrassment about needing a crutch. So think about the way in which think about the way in which women's sexuality was described back in the 80s, even 90s. And I haven't heard these words in ages. Frigid. I haven't heard a woman described as frigid, other than personality, but I'm talking about sexuality, since the 80s. Then there's hysteria or anorgasmic. It's all negative, and now it's all positive. So men suffer from the same issue. And I like to use the term erectile fitness. Ask people about their erectile fitness rather than ask them about their erectile dysfunction. And I'm trying to push that because that kind of opens it up. We're all on the road, men and women, from fitness to dysfunction. And we don't know where the fuck we are on that road because we don't have any data. We don't have a dashboard. We have nothing. We all like to stop going down that road and ideally make a U-turn, but we really can't do that without data. So how do we get men to change their minds? It's really hard. So one of the jokes we have, and I'll be using it soon at the European Society of Sexual Medicine show, is, gee, how do they tell the difference between a gay doctor and a straight doctor with one question?
How?
Do you use a cock ring? Gay doctor, oh, yeah, last night. Got one? And straight doctor, I might have some patients that need that, but I don't need that. Straight men personalize this. It's kind of dumb, too, because my response to that is, it's not about need. It's about want. Do you want to rock harder, last longer, be more confident, and have more intense orgasm? And what guy doesn't want that? But I think
the wording of dysfunction versus fitness, like that's huge. I think that's part of the problem, is that we're looking as dysfunction instead of promoting fitness.
Yes, yeah, it's a big part of the problem. And men, but on the other hand, we've sold 16,000 devices, so there's certainly a market for it. Men who hear about it are interested. I'll give you some examples that some of the research shows. So there's a doctor in Miami who did a study comparing our device to 10 milligrams of tadalafil, Cialis, most commonly prescribed PD-5 medication. Our device is just as effective. And our device is not a pill. And our device doesn't require seeing a doctor. It just requires using a ring. Forget about the data. It's just using a ring for the purposes of sex. Our non-tech version of the ring, which is the Max PR, it's a little sleeker because it doesn't have any there's no memory chip in there. There's no Bluetooth antenna. There's no technology in there. But we've designed that ring for two purposes. One, we want to there are men who don't want to spend $275 to buy the tech ring. They just want something that'll work for them. So that ring was the one that was tested against Cialis. It also was designed to put the right amount of pressure over the urethra to produce a more intense orgasm. Because once I came up with a tech ring, and when I came up with a tech ring, I wasn't thinking about male pleasure. I was just thinking about data for men's health so that men could measure the impact of diabetes, hypertension, cock-killing medications like antidepressants, SSRIs against their sexual health, or they could use the device before they get prostate surgery, or before they consider testosterone replacement therapy, or to monitor shockwave therapy. I was thinking about the data, but having come up with the ring and realized that it was comfortable and could be worn for long periods of time, my thought was, how can I make more pleasure for a man and also more confidence, and I want to get to what we've learned from the data in just a moment. I'm talking about confidence. So the ring was designed we tested on 21 men in Montana. And we do kind of joke about how they're all white men because all the emphasis in research today is you have to include people of color. But I know this works for people of color as well too, because we had lots of customers. We tested on 21 men, aged 28 to 70. I was the oldest person in the test group, with the goal of increasing the male ejaculatory phase by 50% to produce more. You don't want to choke off the ejaculation, then you get retrograde ejaculation, which can be uncomfortable and also lead to infection. So my ejaculatory phase with a maximum performance ring goes from 4 seconds to 7 seconds. Well, that's an incredible change. It's more intense. I don't think it's as good as a vibrator from observing my wife, but the pleasure, in terms of pleasure. But I've never had to my wife says she's glad the kids are out of the house now because I'm loud for the first time. And we hear about that from a lot of our customers. So, we start wanking when we're, 12 or 13 years old, and we think they were, connoisseurs of our own orgasm. But to come up at age 70 with a product that actually produces more intense orgasm, that was really cool. And something that I think all men should experience.
Okay. Well, I've got lots of questions because, as I think I've talked about in the podcast before, I've taught human sexuality for over 20 years. My mother opened up Canada's first sex store. So all of this is very familiar to me. But I also treat many people for sexual related issues. or sex-related issues. So you were talking about, that a lot of the men are, let's say, getting on board with this, and of course, gay men do seem more comfortable inherently in anything non-standard. But I found in my practice when I was dealing with men who had either medically induced or because of medication, like medically because of some physical issue like kidneys or something, or medication or psychological issues, that when it came to trying to rectify the problem, let's say with a cock ring, they found they had partners female partners who felt opposed to it because either they thought it made him less of a man, and this of course adds to the anxiety and stigma. Why am I not enough? Okay, the woman made it about themselves, right? So everything you're saying is so positive, and your wife obviously is open-minded, and it's great. I mean, that's what a wonderful relationship, right? So, have you heard either from the men or from let's say from the research and so on, that the women are getting on board just as quickly as the men, or is that an impediment?
Most of the men that come to us, and I open up my calendar 5 hours a week to speak to anyone who buys our products free. And so because I want to learn about how they're using the product and how we can improve, et cetera. But I'm also learning, as you have, what people are actually doing in bed together. And most of the men that come to us, their wives are open-minded about a solution as well too. We do have a few women who, I think a couple of women who complain about how they can feel it. We're skeptical of that because the diameter of this is pretty narrow. And it's covered with a soft elastomer. It's not covered hard. It's not hard plastic. If it's really buried in the superior fat pad. So we haven't heard that. We have guys who are worried about that though. If I bring this home, she'll think less of me. And we've had men who bought it because it can be put on discreetly. Unlike regular cock rings, a man doesn't have to have an erection when he puts it on. He put it on when he's flaccid. Put it on before dinner. You can wear it. Put it on at any time of day. So that has some appeal. When it comes to, I really want to see cock rings mainstreamed, obviously, as not as an enhancer, not as a crutch or an aid. And right now, there's all this talk about, but look, put it this way: if you told women today, no more vibrators, I really don't want you using a vibrator, they would think, what the fuck, are you crazy? I'll find another guy. So I think there is people need to overcome the embarrassment about this and see it as something positive in their lives. So I don't mean to diminish what you're saying, but we've not found that to be the case with our customers. But that's because of the nature of the customers. They're looking for a solution. They're open-minded.
Right. But is it also the age? Are you finding like they're mostly in the older group, or are you finding, let's say, men in their 20s and 30s? Because we know these days far more men are having issues with erectile fitness, in the younger ages than ever before. Yeah.
Well, our average buyer of the tech ring technology is 45, and our average buyer of the Max PR is 55. But I just got contacted by a guy in Brooklyn who bought 6 Maximum Performance rings. He's a player. He leaves one in each of his girlfriend's apartments. So I think that even for young men, our data shows even young men will benefit from a ring and from a PD5 medication. And for the best experience, the study that Dr. Perlman did in Miami, and our own we did internal study as well too, shows that we're the first people to study detumescence. So detumescence is the time it takes for an erection to go down after climax. And with nothing, it was like, off the top of my head, 30 seconds. With tenotidalafil, it was 2.5 minutes. With our ring, it was almost 3 minutes. And both together, it was over 5 minutes. So if men want to last longer and have more fun and be more confident and satisfy the partners, the real clear takeaway is put a ring on it and take a pill. And we do have men with premature ejaculation, younger men who enjoy the fact they stay hard, comfortably hard, unlike with conventional cock rings, comfortably hard after they climax if they need more time to satisfy their partners. At my age, it's very different. What we hear from customers, frankly, what I've enjoyed with my wife, which is that after I climax, in a healthy marriage, the woman comes first and third. And afterwards, after I climax, I'm still hard. And the male mindset is come and done. But if you're still hard, you're in a different state of mind. So we spend more time intimately after climax than we did before, which is great.
And I think, one thing that's, as you were saying, revolutionary about it is the fact that you can put it on at any time because, again, with a lot of my patients, any type, even just putting on a condom, it's just that they're in their head and they're so, worried about maintaining an erection. So trying to fiddle with this and everything like that, they're so worried. So if you can do it beforehand, and then again, as you get the tumescence, it just kind of, as you say, it I guess melds to the penis, or it shapes, it goes along with the penis. It grows with the penis. That's revolutionary.
It keeps the blood in as it's growing. Here's a huge mistake that we've learned from, well, if you look about, we learned from our data. So urologists group two types of men together as having ED, and they're actually very, very different. And I'd say I'm also on a crusade about this. There are men who can't. There are men who can't attain an erection. That's, to my mind, is real erectile dysfunction. If you can't attain erection, you've got dysfunction, and those men need the help of cardiologists, urologists. They need a team approach. Those men, and I'm guessing that percentage is about 15% of men who have ED. But the vast majority of men who have ED get an erection, and then they lose it. They attain it, and they lose it. Well, this is a very different group. And of course, the reasons why they could happen range from psychosocial factors, and we get into that in a moment, to cock-killing medications, antidepressants, antihypertensives, flow medicines, often in combination, and you can use the data to sort that out. Or there are a small number of men who are testosterone. The hypogonadal. They need testosterone replacement therapy. But you get an erection, and then you lose it. That means you're getting blood in. So the PD5 medications, Viagra, Cialis, they put more blood into the penis. They're not really good at keeping it there. And urologists need to acknowledge that. Their focus has been on the arterial side of the circulation. You got the heart, it's a pump. Well, if a person has heart disease, we need to make that pump more effective, pump blood better. And then we got the problem in the pipes. We've got narrowing the pipes, hypertension, diabetes, atherosclerosis. And so we need to dilate that to get more blood in. But they've totally neglected the venous side of the circulation. All men, all women have deterioration of the venous side of the circulation as they get older. This is something that we've discovered from our data. And the answer for that is a ring. Of course, we want to push our rings, so our rings are comfortable. Our ring is the only ring that's been research proven to be safe to be worn overnight or for prolonged sex sessions. But the doctors haven't figured this out. Can I illustrate my hands for something?
Yeah.
So the notion is that the incidence of erectile dysfunction goes up 10% per decade after age 40. So the thinking of the doctors, my thinking too before I got the data, was that as that goes up, the number of nocturnal erections will go down. And the firmness and duration of erections will go down during sex. That's not the case. What we're seeing is that a slight decrease in firmness around age 70, slight, unnoticeable, 10%. Who would notice 10% being 10% less hard? And nocturnal erections remain relatively constant into the 70s. And then they fall off if there's some precipitous event, a heart attack, hypertension out of control, diabetes out of control. And our ring actually can help detect those things earlier in combination with blood pressure and blood tests, et cetera. So what does that mean? So if ED is going up and these heart factors or arterial blood flow factors are not the problem, what else is going on? Well, what's going on is deterioration in two things, and it plays off of the confidence issue. The confidence issue that's so important in terms of deteriorated erections that you're seeing in your clients. So we all get venous leak of aging. And you guys, even you young guys, might have this. If I sit on a plane for 5 or 6 hours, my socks might get a little tight. My rings might get a little bit tight. Women are more aware of this in men because the microvasculature on the venous side is more fragile in men. So the smooth muscle, as we get older, the smooth muscle around the little veins, venules, gets weaker, and the venules themselves get stiffer. In your feet, the answer is you get a little bit of leakage of serum into interstitial space. You get a little bit of swelling. What the impact in the penis or the clitoris is that blood leaves the penis or clitoris faster. Now, in women, it's not as much of a problem because the clitoris is superior to the penis as an organ of sexual pleasure. The vibrators maintain blood flow. Putting aside the pleasure aspect of the vibrators on the neurological system, the vibrations keep small arteries open and keep the blood flowing. Men vibrators don't work that way for men, so men need a ring. And then, of course, when men lose confidence in their erections, they attain when they lose them, then it feeds into the whole confidence issue that is so. I mean, even I feel at my age. Now, I'm 71. My wife and I make love five or six times a week. I'm a firm believer that an orgasm a day keeps the doctor away. But I want to. I sometimes can feel loss of confidence. Oh, she's tired. I might not get the attention I want, or I'm tired, or we've had a few drinks, or it's almost like a toxin in the brain. Now, I know your patients have this much worse than I do. So my patients, do as well. But a ring, once they get an erection, they have to put a ring on. You don't worry about losing it. So, and that changes the whole dynamic of lovemaking. Because if a man gets 85-90% erect and has a ring on, and the blood's being held, that man's not worried about losing erection anymore. And suddenly that whole sympathetic nervous system shutdown goes away. I've experienced it, and I hear about this from 2 or 3 customers a week. About this is I'm about to say use the F word again. This is a game changer. My wife and I make love. Well, it's not 2-3 times as long as we used to. It used to be 10-15 minutes. We're old people. We both gotten turned on. Get the vibrator? What position are we going to make love in? A little quick negotiation. Now there's no pressure. There's no rush to orgasm. So a common complaint I hear from men, and I'm going to get a little graphic, is, is my dog bothering you?
It's okay.
Okay, we have elk outside. Sorry. If once I have the ring on, if I go down on my wife, previously I would have lost my erection. And there would have been this, well, now we're done with that. Now we've got to get him turned on and blah, blah. With the ring on, I'll stay hard with minimal stimulation for 45, 50 minutes. And our customers say the same thing too. I'll stay hard. I just heard from a guy yesterday, 25, 30 minutes. That totally changes the game. So
a question for you then about medication versus the ring, because I think that there's parallels with our work where there's the side effects that come along with medication, but between marketing and the ease of use of medication, people do oftentimes tend to lean on medication as opposed to lifestyle changes or more natural approaches. Can you tell our listeners a bit about the science behind some of the medication and maybe what the risks are as opposed to using something like a ring?
Well, to my mind, with the PD5 medications, it's not so much the risk, it's the minimal benefit. So if you go back to the original Viagra, so sildenafil, papers submitted to the FDA, and as I recall, there were 7. In 2 of those papers, there was no benefit, no more benefit than placebo. I mean, I've got guys I prescribe it to who say it works in their wallet, it works on their night table because it's a confidence builder for them. Well, yeah, placebo effect is powerful. And if someone tells me that having the medicine in the night table works for them, I will write a prescription for them because I understand my goal here is to help these people, as you probably feel the same way too. So 2 of the papers showed no benefit versus placebo. The average paper showed a benefit of about 20%. Well, that's not a dramatic improvement. It's not like you take a pill and you get an erection. The biggest benefit was in men who were status posts, who had radiotherapy or had prostate surgery. Well, they clearly benefit from the increased blood flow, arterial blood flow, from the pills. So as far as the side effects go, frankly, the only ones I've seen have been in men who take too much, and the younger guys. Because young guys who don't really need this, they take it for recreational purposes. It's estimated in the United States that more than 50% of the prescriptions for PD5 medications is just play, it's partying. And I have personally experienced that I can drink more and take a pill and perform. But for kids my son's age, in their early 30s or late 20s, that's why they're doing it. And sometimes they take too many. If you're going to take 200 of Viagra, you're going to have a problem. You could pass out. You can lower your blood pressure. But my eldest son is a retina surgeon. I spoke with him about the visual effects, and he works in the military healthcare system, which is the largest per capita provider of PD5 medications in the world. He says he's never seen a sustained visual problem. So my issue with PD5 medications is they're not particularly effective. I do think, though, that I think a ring, again, if a guy can attain an erection, getting more blood in, especially a younger man, that's not the issue. It's keeping the blood in. The ring is actually a more effective solution.
Okay. And I'm curious, I mean, this might be, I'm not sure if this is, in your realm, but, because of the work that I do, and Malini and I are on a listserv with a large number of sexologists, and there's a lot of debate about this. But so again, I don't know if this is too far off the topic, but I'm curious what your thoughts are with the role of, let's say, pornography in hurting men's abilities to either maintain get an erection, maintain erection, stay hard as long as they want, or be able to finish. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Is it mostly psychological? Are they rewiring the brain?
I hear a lot about this, and I've read some of the literature, and I've read both sides. But there are people on the pro side who point to a couple of studies showing that men who watch pornography are more likely to get married. So, on the other hand, there are negative studies as well too. I'd just like to make a couple of points about that. I think, and look, if someone can only satisfy their sexual desires by watching women with stiletto heels on an OnlyFans channel, I don't know. I want to put aside the people. I mean, obviously, if someone just only watches strap-on sex, so that becomes that becomes their obsession. I think the pornography can be dangerous, but a lot of the issue here has to do with the hand, the notion that men who are watching pornography and masturbating become dependent upon their own hand. And I think the problem here is we're not addressing, for some men, it's worth, and this is a question that I ask patients and customers about, who are concerned about this issue, and their spouse as well too, is there are three things that men complain about women but don't want to discuss with women, in my experience. Maybe you can add to this. Maybe this has been your experience as well too. One is friction. They don't get the friction from penetrative sex they get from a hand. And if their wives think that sex is just about penetrative sex, or the men or the couple has decided that sex is just about penetrative sex, they're missing out on the fact. So I will talk about my own marriage and the impact of the ring upon us, and also this. My wife's had 3 children. She's 70 years old. I don't get friction in certain positions that she likes. And I'm a guy, and I would get irritated. So for years, after our second child, and I'm talking about decades, having sex in the missionary position or from behind was, for me, one, I'm not getting the friction that I want. So I get irritated. I'm going to lose my erection in 2 or 3 minutes. 2, it's boring. It's nothing people don't want to talk about with men. Don't want to talk about with their partners. Hey, your pussy's too loose and I'm bored. What man is going to tell it to a woman and think, and now she's going to be really, she's going to think, thank you for telling me about that. Let's try something new. That's kind of a buzzkill. So there's boredom, there's loss of friction. There's a third one I'll get to in just a moment. But I started suggesting to both patients and customers, your wife needs to use her hand. And I think most women are going to object to that. It's when people think, I got an erection, now I have to have sex in a position, and then they lose erection. I just spoke to a guy in Missouri last week who had spent like he's wealthy, spent $15,000 with shockwave therapy, TRT, red light therapy, PRP injections, pelvic exercise, because he would penetrate and lose his erection. And so he got the ring. We saw that he had strong nocturnal erections. So his issue was not physical. He had all this therapy because the problem was he wasn't getting friction. His wife had 5 kids, and her idea of sex was just basically missionary position or rear entry. And he put the maximum performance ring on, and now he's hard. And that's what been my experience with my wife too. I now have sex in positions that before would have led to my being irritated. Because I now know if I'm going to have sex in the missionary position, I have the ring on. Okay, I'll stay hard 15 to 20 minutes. I love my wife. If that's what's going to please her, I'll do it. She also knows I'm not interested in climaxing that way because I'm not going to get the type of intense stimulation, more intense stimulation that I'm going to get from a hand or a mouth. So we as therapists and doctors need to explore these issues with people because that's really what's going on. Here's the last complaint that I hear from men about women, which is distraction. Now, Malini, I'm sure not this way. I'm not going to ask Dan to tattle on you right now. But a lot of men complain, and my wife is one of these. She was here. She'd laugh about it, that in the middle of sex, even when they're really turned on, women can start talking about something else. something going on with the kids, something happened with their mother, something at work. It could be a creative idea. They just got to get it off their head right away. Guys' reaction to that is, what the fuck? Can't hold that thought on, for 5 minutes. We're having some fun here. And that's another area where the ring is a game changer in my marriage. So my wife just had 2 sisters over here for a couple of days ago. It seems to be almost genetic trait in her family. All these women confessed that they all talk about other things when they're really turned on. And the ring, my wife has tested this. With the ring on, I can go up and down the steps and get her a cocktail and still come back upstairs hard. Whereas in the past, it would have been, do you want me to get you a cocktail right now? Come on. So a ring is what I want to get at is a ring is a profound confidence builder. And it's one that the doctors have not taken into consideration. The doctors are thinking, getting back to the graphs I showed you, the doctors are thinking they're medicalizing it. It's a cardiovascular issue. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a medication issue. There's a poor circulation on the arterial side of circulation. They're not thinking, there's a leak on the venous side that can be fixed with a ring, and that will start to correct the confidence issue that men are experiencing. Oren, I'm certain you've experienced that when you were 13 or 14 years old, you could hold a girl's hand and get a hard-on for an hour and a half, and then go home and have to jerk off because of blue balls. Well, it doesn't happen anymore to you, even though you're much younger than me. It hasn't happened to me in years. It doesn't happen because we're still getting turned on by sex. We just don't hold the blood in the penis long for a whole variety of factors.
We don't have too much time, but I want to shift gears to a totally unsexy topic, but I'm just curious about this. So, a number of my colleagues do research with plethysmographs and penile strain gauge, so that just for people who don't know, physiological measurement of sexual arousal. They're stimulated, or they're viewing movies or pictures and seeing how they get turned on. So the way you're describing this penis ring's ability to measure the strength of the erection and so on, do you think it's as sensitive or more sensitive as the strain gauges? And do you think that you're going to try to apply it to that kind of research?
Oh, our device is being used in research as a replacement for the Regiscan, certainly.
Okay.
I mean, look, if you're doing a plasmograph study on someone, they're in a lab. They're in a totally artificial circumstance. Our device is being used at home in privacy under real life circumstances. Do I think that our device, and also, you can't wear those machines when you're having sex easily. I don't know about you, but I thought of having
the wires get in the way. Yeah,
the wires get in the way. Exactly. They look like something Dr. Frankenstein would put in your dick. I mean, it's there. So if people are still using that, and I will say hoary, old-fashioned 20th century technology and not using our technology, they need to contact me, because we provide our devices for research. Are significantly reduced price, and often for free if we think the research is going to be valuable. So yes, our device is an at-home device that gets at the same factors, but also our device can also be used during sex.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. When I interviewed Michael Bailey years ago, as he was doing this research, and he was saying that the difficulty is not only is it a lab, it's artificial, but he said you can't move at all. You're supposed to sit very still in order to get the proper readings. So I think this, would change the game as well, and I think to make it more accurate.
I mean, we're in the Google and Apple stores. You want to see what the data looks like? Well, there's a recording of my average nocturnal erections over the last year. I'll show you what individual recordings like, just to get a sense of what the people are getting, and you'll see immediately how this is superior to what the studies you're doing. So, if you look around midnight, just for midnight, that's my wife and I having sex, and then I'm having one small nocturnal, one stronger, and then 2 very strong nocturnal erections, and then morning wood. So that's good cardiovascular and good sexual health in a man my age. Frankly, it's more interesting to me and a lot more fun than my electrocardiogram.
So we tend to end this podcast because we throw a lot of information at our listeners, a lot of science, which is great, but we like to send people away with something that they can do with all of this. So with everything that you've learned from this research and from even what you've shared with us today, what can people do? Like, what's a logical next step for somebody who's maybe having some difficulty with their erectile fitness or their sexual health? What could they do?
Find out what's causing it. Stop speculating. Get data that's objective, actionable, and most important, personal. Because mistake that we doctors make is we generalize from one size fits all. There are three of us on this podcast right now with different ages, different gender, different medications. And if we all had blood pressure or erectile dysfunction if we're men, they put us in the same pill and the same dose. And that's dumb. If you're over the age of 45 or 50 and you're a man, or even younger, and you have issues with your erectile fitness, get data, because the data will still help you to start to sort out. Is it psychological? If it's due to pills, you can titrate the dose. What's the right dose for me? Or maybe I don't want to take these pills at all. And finally, I would say to men, if you want to increase your confidence, last longer, have more intense orgasm, have your partner be more satisfied, get over what any notions you might have about rings not being for you. Rings can help every man of any age.
Okay. And how can our listeners find you, find your product?
Sure. You can find us at myfirmtech.com. You can contact me personally at Elliot, Elliot, at myfirmtech.com. And if you're interested in the female device, just join our email list. It's called The Critique. And we hope to deliver the same benefits to women about the objective health of their clitoris that we're delivering to men late Q4 this year.
We'll put that information in the description so people can access that more easily.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much for coming on. I mean, it was great talking to you about these topics. I love to hear people who are so, let's say, open-minded and so free in their expression of these things, because, it is the year 2025, but many people do feel shame and, at least shyness about these things. So it's so refreshing when I see the opposite of that. So thank you for that.
I speak to world-renowned urologists, and it's hard for them, two things to say, well, maybe we've missed out on the Venus side. But it's really hard for these male doctors to say, because I would want that. Mm-hmm. They're still in that mindset. I don't need that. Or they don't want to reflect on their own personal experiences. And it's when you start to reflect on your own personal experiences that you start to get wisdom, to my mind, about yourself. And then you can project that onto the greater world. So men need to open their minds. They need to get their data and open the minds about rings the way women have about vibrators.
All right. Well, one thing I don't know, I was at your website and I don't know if I saw this. Okay. But the old expression about, when a man has a really great woman, they say, man, put a ring on that. I think that's a perfect marketing for your device. If you haven't already said that,
but I think the change in the curve for straight men, women are going to have to get on board with it as well, too.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, on that note, everyone, until next time, keep your eyes on the road and your hands upon the wheel and anything else that you think might do you good.